This series is written chronologically. If you are new to the series, you must start at Season 1, Episode 1. Thank you. The Blood-Drawn Chronicles, Season 5, Origins Unveiled, was written by Michael Bradley and produced by DigiFox Studios. If you'd like to contribute towards our next season, titled Season 6, Symphony of the Osprey, please visit www.patreon.com/TBDC and take advantage of the awesome perks we have available. We want to take this time to thank Lord Saunders from www.lordsaunders.com for the wonderful audio mastering of the episode you're about to enjoy. As always, thank you for listening, and now our story begins.
I wish I could state in all honesty, Mr. Finley, that I pursued my journey to Mr. Myrick's cell fully fueled with a just passion. But alas, the truth is, justice for Miss Alannah only ignited about a quarter of the fire burning in me. The rest was set clearly on revenge for the tarnishment of my reputation, which only increased as I came every step closer to his door. And as it would seem plain, my agenda, entering Mr. Myrick's room, walking over to his bed, and administering my deadly concoction to his heart. I admit, the case was never more a great difficulty. Getting access with him alone in his room, that was child's play. Once inside, El-Kabar was more of an institution than a prison, so what it generously had in doctors and nursing staff, it greatly lacked in guards. Having full knowledge of Charles' work habits, I knew he had already seen Mr. Myrick for the day and would continue bright and early in the morning. With these eases well in play, the following move was difficult to enact. For myself, I had never taken the mantle of an avenger for anyone. Such a pallium should only be worn by those commissioned by proper authority to do so. Any other way done would only introduce chaos to the natural order of things. I was not a judge, nor an executioner. My role in this world was as a scientist. And for me, that was ever more recognizable upon laying my eyes on Mr. Myrick for the final time. I had lost sight of my true agenda due to the sentiment I felt toward Miss Alannah's story. So much so that I had near forgotten that Mr. Myrick was given blueberry extract as an alternative to my anti-serum. Accounting the time spent creating my deadly concoction after my last session with Alannah, and where I stood now, 2 hours had passed, giving the record of longest time under the effect of my serum to Mr. Myrick. 14 hours, Mr. Finley, that was the record. Never again broken, never again attempted. And even for a man as obdurate and domineering as Myrick, 14 hours on my serum found him tranquilly rested with the composure of complete equanimity. Thus the scientist in me took over the avenger I was never meant to be. I approached him, tucking the deadly concoction into my sleeve. He appeared in the same condition as Miss Alannah did just 2 hours before. Finally, I thought to myself, questions could be answered. And so it was with the faintest of hearts that I retracted my proposal of killing Mr. Myrick for the proposition of finding actual truth for the first time with him. From my pocket, I took out the notes of which I took in order to question Miss Alannah, and began shifting them in an order better suited for Mr. Myrick's personality. After about half the hour passed, I decided my line of questioning was adequate enough to receive truthful answers from Mr. Myrick. Thus, I drew myself ever so close to him and asked, "Are you alive?" Hesitantly, he answered,
Yes.
"Are you surprised to see me again?"
Yes.
You stopped your heart my last visit on purpose, didn't you?
Yes.
And you did it knowing what would happen, hoping to never see me again.
Yes.
And yet here I am.
And yet,
here you are.
And how does that make you feel?
Bitter.
Why so?
Because now I realize the only way to be rid of you is to kill you.
So, in other words, faking your death was an act of mercy towards me.
Yes.
I see. I am curious, Myrick, just how did you accomplish that astounding feat?
Practice.
That's it. That's as much as you're going to give me.
That's as much as you'll comprehend.
I recall not pushing the issue further. I finally had Myrick in the state in which I had always wanted him, and so I decided to press on the topics he elaborately fought so hard to avoid when we first started. With the eager curiosity of a cat, I asked, "Your father, if you could describe the relationship between you and your father in one word, what would that be?"
Non-existent.
Momentarily, I grew a bit restless, but I quickly recomposed myself and asked, "If you could use another word, what would it be?"
Absent.
All right. If you could use just one word to sum up your father, what would that word be?
Hollow.
Hollow as in resentment.
No, Doctor. Hollow as in empty.
Huh. And what in fact makes you say this?
The fact that I could care less, Doctor.
What about your mother? Up until this point, he wore a look of emptiness, which after I asked my question turned into a look of displeasure, of anger. Still, he was securely strapped and shackled, thus I asked, "You seem uneased. Is there perhaps something you'd like to tell me?"
Yes.
Well then, go on.
Continue where you're headed, and I'll kill you.
Huh. But I thought you were already planning to kill me, just by being here again.
Yes. But this time, I'll do it a lot slower.
Your mother, Mr. Myrick. If you could use one word to describe her, what would it be? He continued breathing heavily, as if trying to fight his urge to answer. The struggle was commendable, but alas, after a few huffs and puffs, he answered.
Loving.
There. Now, why was that so difficult?
Because... Because not a day goes by that I don't miss her.
Interesting. How old were you when you lost her?
I was only a child.
I see. And how does the loss of your mother make you feel?
Angry.
How angry?
Very angry.
Say, enough to want to hurt me?
Very much.
And let's say, angry enough to want to hurt Miss Alannah?
Yes.
Alannah angers you, Mr. Myrick.
Very much so.
Why so? He was sweating profusely now, his body trembling, blood escaping his mouth as a result of him biting his lips in an effort to conceal the truth. I'd seen this before many times, Mr. Finley, but this... whatever was about to escape his wounded lips, that was about to be the utter truth. And so, in my press to have it, I repeated the question of why, until he could no longer withhold himself, and like the explosive pressure of the blowhole on a whale, out popped the answer.
Because her defiance, her actions, and even the sound of her voice reminds me of my mother.
Is that why you are the way you are with her?
Yes.
Interesting. Describe for me, if you will, in one word, how she makes you feel when you're around her.
Perplexed.
You're saying you possess mixed feelings for her.
Yes.
And because of these feelings, you can't bring yourself to hurt her, can you?
Yes.
Fascinating. Tell me, Myrick, do you regret her having part in your life now?
No.
My God!
Yes, Scribe?
They both had Beaumont syndrome.
It's not Beaumont syndrome when a captive falls in love with their captive. But I suppose I understand what you're saying. And in said understanding, then yes, it appeared they both had feelings for one another.
Myrick's was of anger and violence, and Alannah's of compassion and submission.
It would seem that way, yes. But like I mentioned before, Mr. Finley, the lesson to be learned here was not to prejudge so quickly.
Is everything all right, sir?
Yes, it is.
We could take a break if you'd like. I find sometimes...
No, it's all right. I just get a bit stirred remembering what happened next.
What happened next?
It happened so fast, my mind sometimes makes up its own conclusions to make sense of what happened. But the truth is, after his answer, within that instant, Myrick had his hand around my neck. He had broken the straps and chains which kept him bound. He promised he would kill me, and based on the increased tightening of his grip, it wouldn't be long before I was out of air. And so, in a desperate act of survival, I withdrew the deadly concoction I had created to kill him from my sleeve and plunged it deep into his heart. I should never have done that. It began with the ferocious sounds of his beating heart, and then the cracking sound of his bones coming apart as his limbs and back separated, followed by the crackling sound of stone splitting as he was becoming too massive for the floor to sustain. And finally,
What was it, sir?
It was giant, completely white of fur, with the body of a lion, the head of a bat, and red soulless glowing eyes. It was the beast I was warned about, Scribe. The Valpyr.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like, share, comment, and, most importantly, subscribe. Don't feel like waiting until next week for the next Blood Drawn episodes to release? No problem. You can get access to all the episodes of this season now for just a $5 pledge on Patreon.